The Marlins have had one of the worst ownerships in all of baseball. Ever since they entered the league in 1993, it has always been a team that has been controlled by bad ownership. In 2023, it has literally been no different. The owners have always been the one to make the final say in every single move, instead of actually just letting a guy do their job in the front office. No, instead it's just all the ownership. The Marlins won the World Series in 1997 and in 2003. They managed to do that while having bad ownership. They've had 4 different owners in their existence, and it feels like every single year, the Marlins are in a never-ending rebuild. It's been that way for a long time, but in 2018, Miami entered a completely new era. This was the Derek Jeter era, of course one of the greatest players to ever even play baseball. He wasn't playing, but he was instead taking over as the CEO on the Miami Marlins. He would be making every single move, and he would have the final say. Well, at least that's what he thought. Going into the job, his first goal was to rebuild that minor league farm system. Even though that they hadn't been in the playoffs since 2003, they still somehow had a bad farm. Fast forwarding 3 years into the future onto 2021, he had ended up building a very good farm system. The season had just came to an end, and the Marlins had a bright future ahead of them. A star by the name of Jazz Chisholm had broke out that year for the lineup, and the lineup wasn't good, don't get it twisted, and it needed a lot of work, a matter of fact. But the pitching staff showed that it was time to win. Going into his job, he had absolutely nothing. The Marlins had no pitching. Jeter completely revamped it, and at the end of the 2021 season, they had players like Sandy Alcantara, who had a 3.19 ERA that year, or 3 ERA Pablo Lopez. So many other players like Trevor Rogers or even Braxton Garrett were on that team as well. Again, this was all a Derek Jeter product. Yeah, you need offense to win games, but good pitching will get you to go far. That was exactly Derek Jeter's mindset after 2021. He saw all of this young pitching and he knew that this team was poised to go ahead and win. But this is really when things started to fall apart for them. Yeah, step 1 of his plan to rebuild the farm system was complete, but step 2 was about to be initiated and failed. Build a good MLB team that wins you games. That was the whole goal, right? He knew that it was unrealistic to go out and spend a lot of money. But going into the job, he expected to be able to at least spend some money, right? Spend a good bit of money. Yeah, the Marlins might be at the bottom of the MLB attendance list, but it's because they suck. If the rich owner invested money into the team, they would be making more money, allowing them to spend more. Jeter saw an opportunity to make this team a lot better. They made moves that offseason, and some that had worked out and some that it did not. But there was one player particularly that Jeter really wanted on the team, but the ownership got in the way of things and didn't let it happen. That player was Nick Castellanos. Nick had a great 2021, and Jeter saw him as a guy that they could go ahead and build around. That was the biggest thing at this point. They had the farm system ready, they had the pitching, but they needed more pieces. If the ownership would have just said yes, then this vision could have worked. But the ownership completely neglected his vision, and that would have been a key for failure. Jeter knew that, and he resigned suddenly out of nowhere in that offseason. Don't get me wrong, he made a lot of bad moves, but he also made a lot of really good ones. By no means was this guy perfect, but he's the reason why they have such a great pitching staff. The next person in charge was a woman by the name of Kim Ng. Kim came in and she did a really good job. Her first full offseason in charge after the 2022 MLB season went really well. The Marlins were a team with a very deep pitching group and little offense. She knew that the lineup had potential. They had power bats, but they really needed to go ahead and add contact to that lineup and not just power. She made a very big trade when she traded away starter Pablo Lopez, and she brought in Luis Arias. Arias was a contact merchant with the Twins, and I know that not everyone values a singles hitter, but the rate that he does it at is simply unreal and it is special. One offseason isn't quite enough to go ahead and fix every single little thing, but she did a pretty good job at building a pretty good team. The bullpen side of things was a little bit rocky as she did struggle there. She brought in certain players who did help the team, but it definitely wasn't perfect. Regardless, the Marlins made the playoffs in 2023. This was a team that had their best pitcher underperform that year, yet they still somehow had a strength at pitching. Again, not a great team yet, but they were definitely getting there. At the trade deadline, they even brought in Jake Burger from the White Sox. Safe to say, he was unreal. He had a .303 average with the Marlins, and the guy was a beast. The other trade that they made was Josh Bell from the Cleveland Guardians. Bell had an 800 OPS with Miami, yet again another good move. They lost to the Philadelphia Phillies in the wild card, but this team had a damn future. But then the Marlins made a dumb move, as they always do, right? The Marlins GM, Kim Ng, was in a contract year that year. It was her option to stay with the team or not, but then the Marlins went ahead and told her if she said yes, that they would hire someone to be her superior and she would not be the one in charge. Talk about awful. She gets you into the playoffs for the second time since 2003, and you fire her? This is the stuff that makes the Marlins so bad. And then the way that Marlins fans are trying to justify it, not all, but some, they're trying to say, okay, go ahead and look at her draft history. Yes, I know, it was very, very bad, but at the same time, Derek Jeter was there. I would have to imagine that he was the one overseeing literally everything there for quite a while. I don't think that she did great drafting, but I also think that she did a really good job at building a good MLB team, and that's what the Marlins needed to be worried about. Yeah, they had great pitching and a decent lineup that needs work. That's exactly why she should have stayed. The Arias trade and the Burger trade look really good right now. Plus, Josh Bell was also good, so overall, she did her part in making a good lineup. Giving her one more offseason would have only made it even better. And I do firmly believe that the Miami Marlins will regress in 2024. You have to think about a few different things, and first of all, Jorge Soler hit 36 home runs last year. He was great, but guess what? The Marlins ownership won't bring him back because of the amount of money that he's gonna cost. And yes, that sucks, but this isn't even the only thing. The biggest thing is that they lost Sandy Alcantara all year to an injury in 2024. He won the Cy Young in 2022. I mean, this is a key part of that team. Losing him will not be good. An 84-win team especially can't afford to lose this type of talent. They recently hired Peter Bandix. He was the Rays GM, so he knows all about managing a team that is cheap and won't spend money. Smart move, but was it the right move? No, absolutely not. What is a front office change truly going to be doing for you? Nothing. I mean, it's the same old ownership. The ownership is the problem, not the front office. If the ownership just opened their wallets and stopped getting in the way of their GMs, God only knows how good that they would be. The bright side of the Marlins is that 2024 will consist of a full year of Jake Burger and Josh Bell. I would say Jazz Chisholm, but he unfortunately just hasn't been able to stay healthy. I really hope he can, man. He can be so good when he is healthy, but it's just the matter of him staying on the field. But throwing Jorge Soler away, mixing this in with losing the front office staff that they had, and the injuries that they're currently dealing with, this is all going to be mixing together into a middle-of-the-pack Marlins team. They have good players, but this is what happens to small market baseball teams. Things don't go their way, and they refuse to spend. I understand that Miami has a very deep pitching group and that they likely will be trading one of them away for a bat, but how much can you actually trade? You already have no Sandy for next year. I'm just not sure how this year's going to be going. What do you guys think? I hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already, and peace out.